Land acknowledgement. As we gather together, we acknowledge the sacred land on which we reside. It has been a site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the territory of the Huron-Wendat and Petun First Nations, the Seneca, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River. The territory was the subject of Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy and Confederacy of the Ojibwe and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Today, this gathering place is still the home of many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community on this territory. We are also mindful of broken covenants and the need to strive to make right with all our relations. Last but certainly not least, we acknowledge the people of African descent who were brought here against their own will or in search of a safe place to live their lives and raise their children. Reconnaissance des terres. En nous rassemblant, nous reconnaissons la terre sacrée sur laquelle nous résidons. C'est un site d'activité humaine depuis 15 000 ans. Cette terre est le territoire des Premières Nations Huron-Wendat et Petun, les Scéniques et plus récemment les Mississaugas de la rivière Crédit. Le territoire était sujet de l'alliance de la ceinture Wampum plat avec cuillère, un accord entre la Confédération Iroquois et Confédération des Ojibwe et des nations alliées à partager et à prendre soin pacifiquement pour les ressources autour des Grands Lacs. Aujourd'hui, ce lieu de rassemblement est toujours le foyer de nombreux peuples autochtones de toute l'île de la Tortue et nous sommes reconnaissants d'avoir la possibilité de travailler dans la communauté sur ce territoire. Nous sommes également conscients des alliances brisées et de la nécessité de nous efforcer de guérir toutes nos relations. Dernier point, mais non le moindre, nous remercions les personnes d'ascendance africaine qui ont été amenées ici contre leur volonté ou à la recherche d'un endroit sûr où vivre leur vie et élever leurs enfants.
Today we're joined by Khary. Thank you, Khary, for joining us today as we look forward to your expertise in your field. I'd like to give a brief introduction before our speaker begins today. Our guest today is Khary Brooks, a chartered professional accountant and financial controller. Khary is a graduate of Woburn Collegiate in Scarborough, Ontario, and obtained a degree in management at the University of Toronto. Khary believes that no matter what you do as a business professional, accounting is critical to your present and future running a successful business. He's thrilled to have the opportunity to share with you today and looks forward to supporting you in your journey. Khary, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Robin. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Looking forward to your presentation.
All right, fantastic. So shall we just get right into it?
Sounds good.
Great. Hope everybody is doing fantastic. My name is Khary. Thank you for your time today. I'm just going to get right into it. I've got a presentation. I want to let you know that if you've taken the time to chat with us today and take part in this, you are a financial professional, or if you're a business professional and you're running a business, or you have a platform where you can impact somebody who is a business professional, I really want to add value and have dialogue on a new mindset as it relates to accounting. And we're just going to jump right into it. Great. So today we want to level up. We want to talk about how accounting can be used to support, serve, and scale your business. It doesn't matter if your business is managing investment properties, it could be restaurants, you could be an Amazon partner. Accounting is essential and integral for any business. It's not a nice to have, it's a need to have. And what I wanted to do is take this time to share with you some of the principles that I truly believe will make a difference in your business and how you conduct yourself. Now, again, if you studied management accounting, if you're a CPA or a chartered professional accountant in some way, shape, or form, a lot of these concepts, they will actually be very familiar to you. And I hope that this talk today will inspire you to go back to those who might not have that expertise, that you can take the content that I'm sharing today or the content that you already know and that you're already confident with to really make a difference in the lives of those who are leading a business and might not have the accounting background. This talk today, if it can be summarized in anything, is really about a mindset. And I believe that the most powerful mindset to have is that no matter how good you are at something, you can get better. And at the same time, no matter how bad you are at something, you can get better as well. And that's what we want to do. We want to level up, okay? So we're going to start with a new mindset. And that mindset is accounting as a servant. So accounting as a servant, okay? In a lot of ways, sometimes we look at accounting as something that accountants do. But I want to let you guys know that accounting is something everybody can do. It might not be your vocation, but it's actually a skill set that business owners, management, team members all play a part in ensuring a strong control environment and a fiscally responsible one. Secondly, what to do. We're going to talk about accounting and the 5 infinity stones. And then we're going to talk about where to go. Let's take it to the next level, okay? So I know this is the exciting world of accounting, okay? And I know you guys are all rearing up. So, tell your neighbor in the Zoom, level up, all right? Let's say level up out loud and let's get started, all right? So when we talk about accounting, oftentimes the feedback that I hear is, well, you can just talk to my accountant. He handles all of that, right? There's the biggie line, back in the day. Now, no need to worry, my accountant handles that. And I guess the question is, what does he handle, right? In your view and from your experience, what does an accountant do? More often than not, the answer is tax, right? I give him my receipts, access to bank statements, and he ensures that, or she ensures that my HST returns are filed on time, and I file my taxes, and my accountant handles that. But I guess the question is, can we have a new mindset? Is there something else more than just the compliance and reporting that goes along with running a business? And so let's start with a fresh new mindset that accounting is here to serve. So I want to share with you an example, okay? So in the GTA here, we've got a successful catering, takeout, and dine-in restaurant. It's got 3 locations. This restaurant brings in just under $250,000 annually in gross receipts, right, in revenues. This business is cash flow positive. Its employees are paid on time. All of its bills are paid. My question to you is, and it's a profitable business. The question to you is this a successful business? Okay, so again, catering business, multiple location, profitable, $250,000 in revenues. A restaurant, is this successful? Okay, so I think we should all agree it's fantastic. A $250,000 business, multiple locations, employees are paid on time, bills are paid on time, taxes are submitted, paid on time, and it's profitable. Fantastic. Okay. The question is, what, if anything, can we learn about its health, right? You can have a business that's successful and can meet and check off those boxes, but is this financially healthy, or is it on the brink of collapse? And really, that's what accounting is there to serve. It's there to answer the questions, maybe even point out the answers that you're not, where questions you're not asking. And it's really important that we all become, beyond just financially literate, but that we are becoming really confident and have a sense of ownership in the numbers, in the businesses that you are supporting, or businesses that you are running. Okay. So again, a fresh new mindset. Accounting is there to serve, it's there to support you, and it's there to put you in a position to facilitate your growth. So let's take a look at their income statement. So I call this TKS Caribbean, all right, dine and takeout and catering. And this past month, okay, you see, this is an income statement. It's a summary of the revenues and expenses over a specific period. A lot of businesses actually don't review income statements on a regular basis, as they should. What you see here is a story. These numbers are telling a story. And you might not be, as a part of your vocation, as part of your career, really experienced in reading statements like this. This is really where I live. This is where I spend a lot of time reviewing income statements for my company, and in my past life, in other roles that I've had the privilege of being responsible for. This is my comfort zone. This might not be your comfort zone, but if you're running a business, or if you're a part of a management team, this is where you really need to live. You need to understand over a period of time what your business's revenues are, its cost of goods sold, its gross margin or gross profit, and what the expenses are, okay? So this is telling you a story of what's happened in July for this fictional company in the GTA, TKS Caribbean, all right? So if I were to ask you, okay, now knowing that this is a summary of revenues and expenses, what's the story that you see here, okay? So for the month of July, $20,000 in revenue. If you extrapolate that over 12 months, that's, like I said, about $250,000 as a full year revenue business. That's fantastic. We should applaud that. If we go down in this income statement, we see something called gross profit. And so that's our revenues less any of the costs, the materials, any labor going into producing that revenue. That gives us our gross profit, or our gross margin. 72%. Does that, what's the story there for you? Does that look good? How is that? I mean, for me, that looks fantastic. That says that I bought something for $5,600 and I generated revenue, top line revenue of $20,000. To me, that says that the customers ascribe a value to what I'm delivering. The food and beverages, you've been able to mark it up to the extent that you've gotten 72% return on the revenue that you have brought in, okay? Or 72% on the $5,600 of cost. But now let's go down a little bit, okay? So we take a look at our overheads, or our expenses that are not variable with revenues. Expenses that just need to be paid regardless, in some cases, of the amount of food and beverages that you sold. Okay, so you have rent, you have utilities, you have wages, depreciation on the equipment and other fixed assets that you've purchased. You have other costs, marketing and admin, and maybe banking interest. So in total, let's take a look at that. You have gross profit of just over $14,000, but you've got a total expenses of $14,000. So this very successful top line business, 71% of its revenues are your expenses. And you've only taken in 72% as a gross profit. So after all of that, after all the work for July, you are profitable by $300, okay? And so if you go back to the slide before and you think, okay, well, as a business owner, a lot of times the mindset is, hey, I don't need to worry. My accountant handles that. Well, maybe your accountant is handling that, and your bookkeeper is handling that, and they are being very accurate and honest in saying, We've got a strong top line business. We're profitable. Our bills are being paid on time. But I think you would agree, if you take a look at this, we've got a bit of an issue. Okay. I don't want to use the L word, but let's just say if the business had to close for a month, we'd be in trouble. Okay. The margins are razor thin. And now also let me take a look and let me ask you a question. Perhaps you have a business right now and you're not regularly reviewing an income statement on a monthly basis. I think you would agree that this would be really nice to have as a snapshot of a period of time to tell the story of what's happening in your business. But is there anything else in this income statement that could add more value to you as a business owner? So what you're seeing here is a snapshot of July 2021. You're not actually seeing July last year. Maybe this is actually a fantastic story because July of last year, we were losing money and we've actually grown. And so what we should be doing is looking at reports that then add value, that tell a story. How have we been doing relative to last year at the same comparable period? We call that comparatives in accounting. How are we versus your budget? Any other points that we could take a look at? We could be looking at our actual results for the month of July versus our forecast. Maybe you had plans going into July, a little bit closer to the month, and you had certain expectations. Lining up your actuals to either your plan, your budget, your forecast is a great way of controlling your business and telling a better story. So right now, we've gone from the business owner that is saying, okay, my accountant handles that. We pay our taxes, I pay my employees, I have a little bit at the end of the day, I can pay out my overheads, but we want to now level up. We want to take this data and we want to be able to use it. And really that's what this talk is about, okay? So does your accounting system, everybody has an accounting system. Growing up, I watched my grandfather, he had multiple businesses and his system of accounting was a notebook that he'd have in his office. And it was, long ledger paper. And on a daily basis, just with columns and his pencil, recording in this, money going in, money going out. It doesn't always have to be something that is, extremely technologically advanced. But certainly we want to make use of apps and other tools to make our lives easier. And so my question to you is, in your business right now, or in the business maybe that you have line of sight to, is it time to level up? Does your accounting system connect to other systems in the business? You might have an accounting system right now. Maybe you use an off-the-shelf software or something that's been developed in-house, but it's not connected to your billing system. So, when your customer service rings up orders, there isn't a line of sight to your accounting system. So there's a disconnect, there's no connect. And that's an issue. Does your accounting system help you comply with requirements, whether it be your business requirements or government requirements? That's an important thing. And that reduces the amount of stress that you have because it's hard enough just running a business, never mind following all the rules. Okay, your accounting system should be able to help you comply with those matters. How about being able to fully track your business? Does your accounting system help you track your business? You really don't want to just have a system that helps you track the cash. What about transactions where you need to account for transactions that don't involve cash? Perhaps you're extending credit to a customer. Perhaps you need to, what we call in accounting, accrue for expenses that you haven't yet paid for. It doesn't show up in your bank, but you do need to have some sort of system to capture what's happened, even if money hasn't exchanged hands. That's what we call the double entry accounting. Maybe it's time to go from that cash basis of accounting where you are just extracting your banking statement, your online banking statement from your bank, which you've set up and set aside as separate just for your banking, for your business, because you don't want to commingle the personal, which is great. But now maybe you need to level up and say, okay, I need to get into this dual entry accounting where I'm accounting for more than just what's going through the bank. Because as we know, not everything is just a cash transaction. You can have things that are on credit or obligations that you have where the cost is down the road. You need to have a system that fully tracks that. And then does your accounting system help you keep up with growth? If I were to ask you a question, your business triples in the next 30 days. Does your current system have the capacity to handle that? Do you have the resources? Do you have the system? Do you have the controls in place for you to enable that growth? Well, that's what we want to talk about today. I want to share with you a little bit of my experience, some of the things that I've seen. So on the billing side, I've seen very often with small to medium-sized businesses, a culture where one person does everything, or one person is wearing multiple hats. And how does that leave somebody feeling? They're overwhelmed. And I know in my own life, when I'm overwhelmed, I'm inefficient. I'm trying to do everything at once, and I'm not doing anything very well. What happens there is that breeds complexity. You have processes that, because of your inefficiency, they're difficult to explain, they're difficult to sustain, and that complexity, anytime you have complexity in life, it leads to stress, okay? And then from a billing standpoint, from just a business standpoint, you see that where there's complexity, there's cost. There's an increased potential for error. There's a risk that if you're audited, there'd be issues. You can lose out on future growth, right? So we have to be very mindful that in a context where we're being inefficient and you feel even just things are more convoluted than they have to be, there is a cost. And what I would really encourage you to remember is that an accountant is not just there to help you come the end of the year when you're submitting your taxes. They are trained to bring simplicity into your business. They can be that fresh set of eyes to help you provide clarity on the who, what, when, and how the data should flow. And when things are simple, it breeds efficiency. You have a sustainable process where the reports that you need are delivered on time, they're accurate, they're complete. It's a process that's efficient. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? You had reports that added value to you when you needed it. And what does that set you up for? That sets you up to be poised to support your growth. And I wanted to introduce some of you and maybe kind of rehash a concept familiar to many of you called scaling. Okay, the definition of scaling is when a business sets the stage to enable and support growth in your company. And I think that's what we're all about. We want to be growing. We want to be growing in our personal lives. We want to be growing in our professional lives. And scaling gives you the ability to grow without being hampered. And that's an essential part of what accounting does. Now, it requires some planning, it requires some cost, but if you have the right systems, you will be in a position to support your growth. So I want to share with you something that I call, or something that I created yesterday, the 5 infinity stones of accounting, okay? What I mean by that is with data, you can do 5 things, okay? Maybe you can do more, but just for purposes of this presentation, I've summarized it as really 5 things. And you and I, we actually do a lot of these things in our own daily life. And I think most business owners, they actually do at least one of these things. And it's probably the very top one, review. Reviewing data is as simple as extracting information from your bank, scanning it. Okay, any numbers in the red? No? Okay, I'm positive. Cash coming in, good. Cash going out, I'm reviewing it. It doesn't really give you a lot of assurance other than the fact that you don't see any overdraft charges, but you feel like you've done something, okay? The next level of the infinity stones of accounting is compilation, putting numbers together. So you're going from just kind of scanning the numbers, seeing if there's any red flags, or sometimes just literally red numbers in your bank statement, to then compiling them, putting them into accounts, right? You're putting them into bite-sized pieces. And then from those compiled numbers, Your bookkeeper, more often than not, helps you with reporting. And I've drawn a little line underneath reporting because oftentimes business owners, that's where we stop. We've reviewed the numbers. Somebody's helped compile them, put them together, right? And we've reported it. And effectively what we've done is we've taken our numbers and we've limited the accounting process to bookkeeping, right? Back in the day, I don't know if they still use this term, but they'd refer to accountants as bean counters, right? In my world, that's blasphemous. Blasphemous. You would not call us bean counters. That's not what we do. There's certainly a value add to compiling and reporting numbers, but there's so much more. And so below that reporting line, after you're submitting your taxes or after you're putting that report together, the question is, are you analyzing the data? You see, reporting is very different than analyzing. Anybody can report something. It takes another step to actually analyze and understand the drivers of that number, to understand the trends of those numbers, right? I shared with you a P&L or an income statement, profit and loss statement, a few slides before. Wouldn't it be awesome if in that income statement, you were already aware of certain benchmarks, certain trends that you were looking for, so that that report didn't just become a compilation of numbers, it actually was a tool to help you analyze the health of the business. And then lastly, the fifth, what I call the infinity stone of accounting, is going beyond reviewing and compiling and reporting, going beyond analyzing to actually using the information. So going from my accountant handles that to I'm handling that and I know what's going on in my business. I've got a grip on what's happening. I know what happened last month and I know how it compares to my budget and I know how it compares to last year. That's really what an accountant is there to support you with, is to provide you that value. And I want to share with you really what an accountant does is they assist in creating and analyzing financial statements. They're there to help you tell the story behind the numbers. They can help audit the business's books to identify if something's missing, right? It's one thing to provide a report. It's another thing to say, this doesn't look complete. Or perhaps we're making a 72% margin, but the benchmark in our industry is 92%. Maybe our materials cost us too much, or maybe our prices are not high enough, right? It's that analysis that will add value and really transform your business and take you to that next level, right? Level up. Bookkeepers, they keep the records. They're essential to a business. They record transactions and they ensure that things are recorded completely and accurately. And they need to work in tandem to provide a full level of service to the business. But one is not just a nice to have and the other a need to have. They really do work together to provide a full level of service to your business. Okay. So let me share with you, my journey as an accountant. I want to share with you some of the things that I've seen, and we're going to get to Q&A in a little bit. In some cases, there is a process in place that I would call haphazard. It's not consistent. And whenever you have any inconsistency in your life, whether it be your business, your processes, your diet, your exercise, whenever there's something that is inconsistent, oftentimes it gets neglected and it gets to a point where things just become a mess. And then it just gets to a point where it's not being done. I don't want a show of hands or a show of comments in the comment section, but how many people have not reconciled their bank this year, right? How many people have not generated financial statements this year? Okay, it's oftentimes because a process hasn't been set up that has been consistently applied. And you know what? That's okay. If you recognize that, and this is where you are, like I said before, no matter where you're at, if you have a mindset that you can always get better, let's learn from that. And let's take that reality and take it to the next level, okay? But let's just accept the reality that when something is neglected, there is a cost. You will lose money. There is a future audit risk. And those are just two of the costs that I have seen as a result of an accounting system that is just not executed with excellence. Okay, and so where I would encourage you to get to a point is to have a conversation with an accountant in your network. Or if you're an accountant and these concepts really resonate with you, I want you to think of really 3 things to bring to that manager, that business owner, that you have a line of sight to, that you have a platform and that you can impact. So the first thing is consistency. Bringing clear and consistent accounting processes can transform a business. You will get to the point where you know where your numbers are. You have a certain level of expectation going into the week or to the month or to the quarter end. And from that consistency, you will develop a culture of ownership. When there's a culture of ownership, you'll have staff, management team that want to review the financial information. They embrace wanting to review financial data. They will go from reviewing to actually analyzing. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to get into the numbers. And that's where an accountant can really drive value in your business. And the key thing is ultimately the 5th infinity stone. All right, that concept of becoming, I want you to become the Thanos of accounting. Let's get to acting on our data to make informed decisions. It's not just enough to produce fancy, pretty reports. What we want to do is get to a point where that data is informing us, okay? So let me pause for a moment, okay? This is not a university lecture. I could go over a number of reports, dashboards, best practices of what could be reviewed in your business. But I would say at a very minimum, what you want to ensure is that as a business owner, you understand regularly the cash flow of your company. This is at a minimum is where you need to start, the cash coming in and the cash going out. In Excel this morning, it took me about 1 minute, maybe less, to create this template that you see in front of me. I just simply went to Excel, and if you have Google, if you have a Google Gmail address, you just can go into Google Sheets. They have all sorts of templates to create a cash flow statement. It begins with the cash that your business has on hand for a current period, and then you are simply taking that starting point and then summarizing all the cash coming in and then the cash coming out. I understand that on this line, we've got very sophisticated businesses, very large businesses. You've got very sophisticated, accounting systems. That's awesome. But really what it comes down to, no matter what level you are in an organization, your CFO is reviewing a statement very similar to what I have in front of you, a cash flow statement. Okay, the cash coming in and the cash coming out, because regardless of how profitable your company is, if you can't satisfy your obligations on a timely business, you will be out of business very soon. You could have a great business idea, but through the year, if you fall behind on monthly obligations, that supplier, that bank may not be as generous to you as to extend you any grace when you miss your obligation. So again, I've got the Wu-Tang at the bottom, right? Cash does rule everything in the world of business. And so as a very starting point, if you were to say, Khary, where do I start? It really does begin with your cash flow and understanding what is going on, where it's going, and what you're going to do about it. So this is my last slide. And I wanted to kind of position this as a 2-minute drill. This is going to take you 2 minutes. We began this talk by talking about a new mindset. So let's just recap. The mindset that we have is that accounting is a servant. It is not something that just one person does over to the side and come tax time, I'm straight. Okay? And so how do we cultivate that new mindset? I'd encourage you, get your phone or your calendar and set a recurring event for one of those 5 infinity stones, okay? 9 o'clock, Monday, 9 to 10. Every single Monday, you will be taking that time to review and analyze financial information. Or maybe instead of reviewing and analyzing, maybe you will be reviewing and compiling. Maybe you will be reviewing financial statements with the intent to use it in some way, shape, or form. Create that culture of accountability and routine. Again, accountants, this might not be, as an account, you might not be an accountant as a career, but you are responsible for accounting in some way, shape, or form as a business person. Okay, and so have that new mindset. Embrace reviewing the financials. And I know it might be scary at first. Maybe your background is in communications or strategic management or marketing, sales. You have a new mindset now. Embrace that, and you will see you're going to get better and better and better at it. It's going to make you dangerous. It's going to make you Thanos. Okay, and number 2, a new way to have accounting serve you. So contact an accountant. You know an accountant in your network, or maybe it's a bookkeeper. You need to think about and engage with them conversations on how you can level up. Many of you have been in business for many, many years, but you also know that experience doesn't necessarily mean that you have fully arrived and that there isn't room to improve. And so have that mindset that you want to improve and that you are willing to grow. Even if you are using an accountant right now and they're providing tremendous value, there's always more. How can you level up? So contact an accountant in your network. Let them know that you participated in this masterclass. The goal for me, and if I could say that there's a goal for you and your team, is to go from compiling to being analyzers of information. Okay, so this was really designed to spark a conversation. And if you're an accountant on this, my fellow accountants, shout out to you. Take this content. It will add value. You'll be surprised how many business owners really are neglecting reviewing this because they just feel like that this is just not me. This is something that somebody else handles. But you can empower them. You can add value to them. And I think you'll be doing a tremendous benefit to them. So we're at the point where we are in Q&A. Maybe Robin, I will pass it on to you in a moment. If there are already questions, please, you can raise it in the chat. I already do have a question. Or actually, Robin, maybe can I just maybe ask the questions right off the bat?
Of course, and I'll help with that.
Okay, great. So let me read the first question. So Khary, you've done a fantastic job. Thank you for the time today. When do I need an accountant and how much do they cost? Thank you, Mom, for that question. And it all depends. Because you've been a part of this conversation, you are now aware that we all need accountants, okay? You might not need an accounting firm. Maybe you need a bookkeeper to then put you in a position to be the accountant for your company. It really depends on your size and scale. I know that a lot of you get very quick to saying, well, how much do they cost? My current accountant charges me this for a tax return, this for a set of financial statements and reconciling their bank. I just want you to stop, and before you think about even cost, understand why you need an accountant. Understand the value that an accountant will bring. And I think you will find that the cost really does pay for itself in the value that they will bring to your business. Number 2, do I need an accounting software? Where do I start? That's also an excellent question. Thanks, Mom, for that. No, she didn't answer that question. But accounting softwares, there's a lot of information available to you. Because I'm not sponsored by any, and I don't know if there's any of our sponsors. What I would just say is that is, again, another excellent question for your accountants. Accounting softwares, at the very most basic, you can have paper accounting, you can use Excel, that's great. But the limits there is that oftentimes they are not connected to other systems in your business. And you could be very inefficient through that. So if your business doesn't have a lot of transactions, very simple, Excel is great. 1 or 2 transactions a month, 4 or 5. You can extract your information from your bank accounts and you can have all the information that you need. But, if you are going to be growing, you're going to want to look into accounting softwares, and that's where your bookkeeper can take that ownership to compile, but then you are going to embrace reviewing and using that data. All right, so those are the two questions that I had. I'll pass it on to Robin. And again, thank you for your time, everybody. I hope you found it useful.
Thank you, Khary, for all the information, very useful information as well. Are there any questions that anybody would like to ask? You can either raise your virtual hand, or we can
raise my virtual hand, Robin.
Michael.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with my system, but my virtual hand doesn't seem to come through when I do raise it, so I may have to improve on my systems.
Not a problem.
Sorry. I just wanted to make a comment, and I listened to Mr. Brooks here, and I'm an old accountant, and I can tell you, one of the first things that came to my mind is how guaranteed and how secure the accounting profession in the Black space is when I listened to your presentation. Excellent, excellent presentation. And, we do record these, and we should recommend folks to go back and listen over and over again, because you really made the presentation lively. You have actually do a very good job selling the reason why we need accountants. A lot of folks believe it's only at tax time, and they just sign the paper on the dotted line and they move on. And sometimes they forget that the business is not the accountant's business. It is their business. And sometimes they forget that the accountant is not just a bean counter, but they're a trusted advisor because they dabble in the details. And as they say, the devil is always in the details. So excellent presentation, and I feel so proud listening to you as an old accountant. And I always like to see the folks, we talk about years of experience, and you did allude to it. You can have 40 years experience, but guess what? It's 1 year 40 times. You have not learned anything new. You have just been doing the same stuff each year. You have done it for 40 years. So as you rightly said, that is where your accountant can sit with you, walk you through the detail, and be your trusted advisor. But I just wanted to make the comment that your presentation was excellent, and I feel secure now in leaving the profession in your capable hands. Thanks for coming on board, and thanks for making the presentation.
Thank you so much. Wow, what kind words, Mr. Penna. Thank you so much. That was a real blessing. Thank you for taking the time to share that.
Yeah, you're most welcome.
I have a few questions for you here, Khary, so I'm just going to shoot them off and you let me know. So the first question we have is, I'm reckless with my receipts and records. Can this result in significant disadvantages, especially with my taxes?
Yes. So sorry, can you just repeat that question? I want to make sure that I got the clear scope of the question.
Not a problem. I'm reckless with my receipts and records. Can this result in significant disadvantages, especially with my taxes?
Yeah, and so completeness is really always the issue when it comes to accounting systems. How confident are you that you are recording everything? Are you missing anything? Do you have a system that allows you to compare to a budget? Are there any checks and balances to ensure that you are missing something? Yes. So I think inherently a system like that does breed a risk there. And not to be discouraged, there's no airtight system. There's always the risk of error, but there's always an opportunity to get better. So, perhaps there might be other, like-minded individuals in your business that you can kind of leverage to see what they're doing. But yes, you always want to have a system that can flag for you what you've missed, or create internal controls to see where things don't reconcile. And that's really where an accounting system would add more value to you, because you could see quickly, my bank doesn't reconcile. Quickly, my cash flow is going to be negative in 2 months if I don't do something. So yeah, come tax time though, that is a separate thing. I think the authorities in, and I know this is going to go to YouTube, so I'll be careful, but and I used to be an auditor. In a lot of ways, they audit what they see. And what you don't provide, they will have certain benchmarks to say, okay, for this business, this is how much I expect for them to collect in receipts. So if you're leaving a little something off the top, then you might get flagged. But, I think the issue more so is a business risk. And I think be less concerned about the tax risk and more concerned about, are you leaving money on the table? Are you taking advantage of all your tax deductions? Are you engaging your accountant to look into whether or not you should be paid via dividends or as an employee? It's conversations like that where dialogue with an accountant will really add value.
Thank you so much, Khary, for that. Jacqueline, I see your hands raised, and you also made a mention in the chat. Would you like to just ask your question?
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon. Can you hear me okay?
Good afternoon. Yes, we can hear you.
I'm not technical. I'm impressed that the phone connects to the whole thing. Like, this is great. So I had a question. I do my bank reconciliations, and by the way, it was a great presentation. Thank you for it very much. We do our bank reconciliations. I'm a couple months behind, but I'll catch it up. But I'm trying to do more analysis. I have not been. I just kind of just go. And so is there a place where I can find out, we're a consulting company, what a portion of our income should be going to labor? So I don't know that I'm spending more, whatever I'm paying on labor, that based on what we pay on labor per month, this is what my sales should be. I don't know that number. Is there a place that we can go to define what is an acceptable amount based on a revenue to spend on rent? What is acceptable to be based on labor? So I can get our financials on a monthly basis or quarterly basis in line with what industry says. Is there a place we can go to line those things up?
That's an excellent question, and you're asking all the right questions. If you're behind on your bank reconciliations for a couple months, that's actually probably better than average, actually, as far as the small and medium-sized businesses that I've seen. I work for a large global company. We reconcile our bank on a monthly basis. What I would just say is that you're, in my view, and maybe I just want to make sure that I've understood the question accurately, is that you really need to ensure that you are reviewing financial statements regularly and they are set up in a way to compare them to those benchmarks so that you can answer that question. So it's kind of a question that requires two parts. It's your bank reconciliation is only so valuable, right? It almost kind of looks more so like what you could just see looking at your bank statements. But what you want to do is translate that information into a report that can add value. So it could be a cash flow statement. It could be what I'm hearing you, what sounds like to me the need is an income statement. And as you said, reviewing that on a monthly basis. Where you would get that, you can create that yourself. And that can just be right from your bank reconciliation.
I'm sorry, I think maybe I didn't say my question clearly. So we use QuickBooks. Yep. I reconcile and I have the reports in QuickBooks. So when I look at my P&L statement and I say my labor costs are X and my revenue is this, is there a place or some website we can go to say, let's say, for example, if my labor was 30% of revenue, that may or may not be industry standard. Mm-hmm. Is there a place that you know of where I can go to and find out what the ratios should be? I'm not good with the ratios. Even like my, debt equity ratios, I get that, my receivables to Excellent. Revenue, but the portions of what my expenses are to my revenue. I don't know how to get that compared to what industry. So for a regular consulting company, this is what is acceptable to them. I don't know what is acceptable. So I'm trying to see whether or not you know of a place I can go to find out somewhere. Should it be 30%? Should it be 10% of revenue? I don't know.
So I would almost give you the same answer. It's still a good question now that I fully understand it. To say that the benchmarks in industries, I assume that you're a private company. A lot of private companies don't disclose the, margins for, some obvious reasons as far as, competitive reasons on pricing and margins. You're not going to get that just from Googling it. In my business, we look at StatsCan. Stats Canada has a variety of information that can help us understand drivers in the market. But when it comes to my labor as a percentage of my revenues, are things, kind of in line with industry norms? That's a really tough one. And I think, certainly consultants that can do surveys, that can give information on companies that are willing to share, you might get some value. But again, going back to the first way that I answered it, I'd almost say that you need to set benchmarks for yourself. You need to say, this is our budget going into the year. This is how much we're going to spend. this, this is our labor as a percentage of revenue, and we're going to stick to that budget. I appreciate the value of looking at benchmarks. I appreciate that they might inform you as to where you stand. And again, for us, StatsCan, we also have some paid consultants that provide us with some benchmark information. We also do, all sorts of other research. But I think from your perspective, maybe the starting point is, and if you're probably already doing this if you have QuickBooks, but is creating a culture where you are saying this is the ratio that we need. Our current assets need to be twice as much as our current liabilities to give us that buffer in case things turn down. Our labor needs to be 50% of our total revenue so that we have enough buffer to pay for, you know what I mean? So it's a tough question. It's a good one. Hopefully at least it sparked or maybe kind of reignited some of the things that you've already considered as a team, and wish you best of luck.
And
Thank you so
Gary,
much.
sorry, Gary, public companies, because they're forced to make their financials public. You can actually look at some of the public companies that are in your field. It may not, you can look at them to give you an indication as to what the big players are doing. And that can help you to position yourself.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Jacqueline. So we have Terry Ann in the chat who says, is there any accounting software available that links to your bank feed that can enhance the reconciliation process?
So I would say if your accounting software doesn't do that, then you need a new accounting software. Like, that as a minimum, you need to have software that integrates with your bank so that you can quickly see what hasn't been reconciled, what hasn't been, captured, right? And just for those of us that don't have the accounting lingo of what a bank reconciliation is, reconciliation really just means agreeing two parties or two pieces, right? So the bank statement says one thing, but then your cash accounting, your records for what you say is in your bank is something else. And so the reconciliation process brings the two together, where you are saying, okay, this is what's in the bank, but we haven't accounted for it. Or this is something that we've accounted for because it's revenue, but it hasn't hit the bank yet because the customer hasn't paid. It's bringing those two together. And, with respect to, any of the well-known accounting softwares that, are available, QuickBooks, Sage, they all have, a link to your banking such that you can have a pretty seamless reconciliation process.
Perfect, thank you, Khary. And there's also Cara and Morgan in the chat mentioned industry information is available on the federal government site and has listed a couple links if you'd like to, anybody in the chat or any participants in the webinar today would like to take that information. That may be good for some of us here. Nice. Great. Are there any more questions anybody has for Khary? As always, Khary, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for sharing all of your information with us today. We all had a really good insight to those who aren't really accounting savvy or are in a different background, and you've made it quite simple so that we are able to follow along and learn how it can best suit our business practices. So we thank you for your time here, and I just want to share some of the events that we have happening for today. So I'm going to go over and share my, we have a question. Hi. Sorry about that.
Yes, I have a question. Hi, my name is Gabby from BC, Vancouver. I wanted to know where are we at as far as the applications for funding right now? Are they being reviewed or what's the time frame?
Are you discussing one of the other programs that we have running, Gabby?
Yes.
That information can be taken up with, if you send us an email, we'll be able to forward your questions to our respective team member. So it'd be best to contact us through email to get that information.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabby.
Thank you
for joining all the way from BC.
Yes,
That's wonderful.
I love your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate your input and appreciate you coming. So thank you, Khary, once again. We enjoyed having you here with us. As you know, we have a list of events happening this week. All you have joined the LevelUP, which is great. We love to see you here and thank you for joining us. You know, tonight we have our Boss Women's Program Goals. We'll be joined by the TJX that Canada buying team, and that's at 6 p.m. Over Zoom, of course. Please do have a lot of boss women here as well. It'd be wonderful to have you here and taking in some of the information that TJX is willing to offer us. So that I would love to have you there too this evening. We also have tomorrow our Ask a Professional series, where we'll be joined by HSBC's Ed Gleason, who will be talking about financial well-being. That is at noon tomorrow, and we'd love to see you there also on Zoom. And we also have our BATE program, and I think this is what Gabby was referring to. We have these sessions happening on Thursdays on July 29th at noon with our special guest, Gisela Theodore. So we'd love to have you there to join us for all of the wonderful conversations we'll be having surrounding better business practices and leveling up and scaling our business. So we'd love to have you there, and we thank you so much for joining us today. Khary, thank you so much for all the information. Oh, Michael?
Before you run, Robin, I really like to put on my BBP treasurer's hat. And
not
to
a
say,
problem.
On behalf of the board and its members, big thank you, Gary Brooks, for the presentation. Again, I just want to repeat, as an accountant, I was really, I really enjoyed the program, really enjoyed the presentation. And I like to remind folks that these are the talents that we have available in the Black space. And when it comes to the fore, it is such a delight to see it. So again, thanks on behalf of the board and its membership.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you for sharing that, Michael. And Khary, he said he's also willing to share his LinkedIn. So Khary, would you like to give out your LinkedIn information for our participants?
Yes, absolutely. Just look up my name online, Khary, last name Brooks, and I'd be happy to help. And yeah, definitely encouraged, through this conversation as well. I feel pumped. I feel like ready to do some more accounting. So thank you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, Khary.